right, so we're going to transition to the next panel, which is our Women You Should Know, Superwomen in Technology. So those of you who are scooting out for, I'm assuming, a little bathroom break, please hurry back. We're going to transition the stage two. So we have an Instagram account, guys. I'm promoting it because we're going to be giving door prizes through our Instagram account. So if you can follow us on one.day.immersion, and then make some posts on hashtag ODI NYC 2018. In just a moment or soon, we're gonna pick some names or posts out, and we've got some really cool prizes. Okay, cool. So this next panel is all about women. The woman that is moderating the panel this morning came highly recommended by one of ODI's executive committee members, Zanita Henderson, who will be here today. You should meet Zanita, period. She's on her way, that's right. Jessica Santana is the co-founder of New York on Tech. And what amazed me about her story is that she is a Syracuse alum, and she started in the corporate world. But her passion was about helping her people and people of color on the tech side. And I just found that just really refreshing, especially for a young person who was being quite successful in the corporate world and probably making some really good money. And she decided to go with her passion. And I was thrilled when she agreed to moderate and lead the panel of women that we're going to be meeting today. So would you please welcome to the stage Jessica Santana.
Hello. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. Well, it's so exciting to be here with you this morning. Thank you, Dolly, for the introduction. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jessica Santana, and I'm one of the co-founders of New York on Tech. New York on Tech is an early pipeline tech talent accelerator for high school students where we train them on in-demand web, mobile development and design skills, and then place them into internships with our corporate partners over the summer. Pace University is a really great partner for us as well. This is where we host our campus, so it's so nice to be back here during the school year. So today's conversation is a lot of fun. It's one of the topics that I enjoy talking about the most. We're going to be talking to some very, very awesome women in technology who have not only trailblazed paths into the industry, but have also thought about how they were going to make meaningful contributions to it as well. So without further ado, the first person I'd like to invite to the stage is Sandra Baez. And I'll let them do their own introductions in just a few. The next person I'd like to invite is Sasha Alston. Oh, okay, so Sasha is not going to be joining us. The next person I'd like to invite is Neela Golump. And then finally, I'd really like to invite Natalie Walker. So each of you, starting with Natalie, since you are the farthest away from me, can you all please introduce yourselves, what you do, and how you got here?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Natalie Walker. I am a technical program manager for Vimeo, specifically our OTT product. And what that really means is I'm onboarding our new sellers or our new clients, getting them started with our product, our OTT product, and that includes the Vimeo live streaming product as well as our branded apps. And so, yeah, that's it.
Great, and I'm Neela Gollump. I run our voice product at Comcast. Voice product, people often confuse it with the telephone product, but it's actually our voice remote and any other way people use voice to engage with our products. And I started in the field of consulting and then made my way into product management, sort of discovered it by working in technology and consulting. Spent some time at Amazon, really learned more about product there, and then moved to Comcast and have been just continuing to grow in product management.
Hi. So I'm a vice president of revenue operations for Univision. What that really means is, you know those ads on the website, on any website, because I work on a bunch of them, or video ads, that's me. So me and my team put those up. We manage systems that actually deploy those. We think about how to package them, sell them, price them, everything. If I want to figure out a way to like really get your attention, I might devise a new type of ad product to get out there and get your attention in some hopefully not super obnoxious way. But that's what my team does. There is absolutely no training for that. You just kind of start and say, I think I want to do something with ads, and that's generally how you start in my field. I was a sociology major in college, and so obviously nothing to do with tech. But I started in the digital field about 20 years ago when .com was just starting, and so this area interested me, really because I was interested in revenue. So that's how I wormed my way in there, and then all of a sudden I found myself between server racks, and that's how it started for me.
Awesome. Very awesome. Okay. So the cool thing about today's audience is that it's mostly made up of students. And so when each of you think about, you know, the way that you got into this industry, because I'm assuming everyone in here is thinking about internships and they're thinking about jobs, what would you say is the thing that you wish you would have known before you started thinking about branding and differentiation and really developing your skill sets to be competitive in the job market?
That's a good question. I think that, well, before I branded myself then, I think there's a secret to interviewing that people don't know. I think people go into an interview and think, like, I have these skills, check, 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 you know, and you really focus on that. But it's really a conversation, and there's another human being on the other side of that table. And so, honestly, the interview skill set is important. I interview a lot of young people. They come because I do get a lot of folks that don't have a lot of initial skills in what it is that I do, because, again, there are no places to learn this stuff. And I find that I want to understand if they're passionate about contributing and being part of a team, and if they have a very high capacity for learning. And those are the skills that I actually look for, rather than, you know, whether you took a computer science class. So that's something that took me a while to learn, and actually, I think well into my 30s, I'd go out on interviews and be like, oh, I'm totally qualified for this job, and then I'd be totally bummed because I didn't get the job. It's like, why didn't I get that job? Because I forgot that I'm a human being, and that's also a human being.
Yeah, I also spend a lot of time interviewing people, and I think there's sort of two types of people that I speak to. There's those that are kind of who've gotten connected to me or whatever, and are kind of there but not really invested. And then there's the other kind of person who is super invested in the conversation with me, who's asking me a lot of questions, who wants to learn about what we do and how they can get involved. And the first type of person I mentioned doesn't really tend to excite me. It's not really what I'm often looking for a position. The second kind of person is who I'm looking for. When I'm hiring, I want people who are demonstrate that they're fast learners. You don't have to be someone who's an expert in technology. I was a government major in college, so definitely not what I'm necessarily looking for, but I'm looking for someone who's going to ask questions and get up to speed and who I can trust with something and who can drive that forward. And I think that's really important to demonstrate during interviews. And I think you can do that by asking a lot of questions to who you're talking to and just trying to learn. I think that really is a key way to appear as if you're a go-getter and someone who is going to be an asset to the team. I think you can also achieve that with your resume, just looking for opportunities to demonstrate that you're owning something and you're driving it forward. I think I can't overstate that enough. You can do that with your listed activities and that kind of thing, just making sure all of your points below your activities are data-driven and really focused on demonstrating that you did something and that you accomplished something that moved the needle, I think is absolutely critical. So yes, I would say just demonstrating that you are someone who's a go-getter and who's really going to help the team and that you're going to learn quickly are really important factors in building your brand and differentiating yourself.
Yeah, I would have to agree with what both ladies just mentioned. For me, what I've found to be successful in my own personal experience, sitting on that side of the table where I am interviewing and what I think has gotten me through, has really just been being honest and saying, not pretending that I know something that I don't know. And if you don't know something, ask those questions. Interviews can go both ways. I think what helps me and what I've seen with my, my friends and people that I work with, that's worked for them, that's helped them to stay competitive, is those soft skills are really important, just as much as those skills that you are learning in school in terms of whatever direction you want to go into. Just being a nice person and being curious and being a go-getter and ready to put your roller skates on and get started and hit the ground rolling or running is really important. A lot of times, especially lately, I noticed that companies are looking for people with diverse backgrounds and interests. And if you can bring a level of diversity to a team, that's super valuable. So coming in and saying, hey, this is what I have to offer, this is what's valuable, but also saying this is what I'm interested in and this is what I would like to see and these are things that I would like to get involved in, I think that also helps. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think one thing for me is, when I was starting my career in technology, I felt like I felt competitive. I felt like I could do the job. So it was never about whether or not I could do the job. But there came a point in time where I started experiencing uncomfortable encounters in the workplace that got me questioning some things about, what it was to be a woman in the workplace, what it was to be a person of color in the workplace, and then how could I actually advocate for myself in these spaces, especially when I am uncomfortable. And so my question for you guys is, what stories do you have about uncomfortable encounters in the workplace, and how would you advise young people in handling situations in similar environments?
I actually have an experience from yesterday that I want to talk about. Yesterday, I was doing a product demo to a couple of C-suite executives, not from my company. I should lay that out there. But it was a room full of men, and I was the only woman in the room. And a few of the men in the room wouldn't look at me in the eye with their questions. They would look at my boss, who was also in the room, not giving the demo, but they would look at him directly. And I have to say, he was really great about redirecting them back to me, but I really felt like I was the one giving the demo. Why wasn't I the one, getting looked at as the person of authority? And I knew it was because I was a woman in the room. And those types of situations have occurred many times for me, and I expect them to keep on occurring. And the way that I navigated it is just that I kept on trying to demonstrate that I knew most about what the topic was that we were discussing and that I was the expert in the room on it. And I really tried to not let the behavior derail me or make me frustrated, that it was just a matter of they didn't know that I necessarily was the expert in the room. And I just kept on reminding myself and just kept on trying to push forward. I also tried to appear more authoritative and give off kind of more of a vibe to that I was an authoritative figure in the room. But that was something that happened to me yesterday. I expect that it'll keep happening, and I think that it speaks to a need for more women in the workplace, more women in leadership roles, and for us to just keep on trying to push forward and kind of break through gender stereotypes and just be seen more as authoritative figures throughout the business world, especially in technology.
I feel like there's uncomfortable moments all the time in the workplace, but one that really stands out because it has stayed with me till this day because I looked at it as a learning experience. But in my last role at my previous company, another video streaming platform, I was a customer success manager, and we had just started the customer success management group. So people were still trying to figure out who the heck are these people, what are they doing here, kind of what is their value, how are they different than account managers. You guys can pull me to the side later on and ask me that same question, I'll be happy to explain it. But with trying to prove your value with a very small team in a medium-sized company, it's extremely uncomfortable. And when you're dealing with clients who are paying you tons of money to help them monetize their video streaming business, yeah, it's very, very uncomfortable. And as a customer success manager, you're sort of in the middle. You're working with product engineers, you're working with the sales folks that brought that business in, and then you're also working with the product support team. So you're kind of that middleman, and it's easy for you to be the one that, if it goes well, you'll get rewarded half the time. And if it goes bad, you'll get blamed all the time. And there was just one specific instance where we had a very large client, and I was the CSM assigned to that account, and I saw red flags coming up, like from the very beginning. And I remember telling my direct manager, hey, I think this is what's going on. This is an issue. We need to sort of work together to try to stop this from happening. He kind of didn't move as fast as maybe he should have moved, and I didn't want to go over his head, but I did it anyway, went and spoke about this issue to a product engineer who happened to be my friend. So I was coming to him for advice, not really like, red flag, red flag. And what happened is it just sort of spiraled out of control, because what I learned is that you have to, if your manager isn't moving as fast as necessary to help calm the situation, wave that red flag, stand on a desk, stomp your feet, go to your boss's boss, go to all hands, it's like all hands on deck situation. And it ended up being where everybody involved in this account, from sales to engineering to support, anybody who answered an email with this client ended up in our CEO's office on the phone with the client. And when I tell you uncomfortable, it was super uncomfortable. What happened is that the engineer, that's my friend, kind of spoke up and said, hey, early on I knew about this issue. I was working with my team to help resolve it. We ended up resolving the issue, but I guess my point is, what I learned is you see something wrong, say something very early, and it doesn't matter how loud or obnoxious you have to be to get somebody to hear you. If it's your responsibility, you have to take ownership of it. And I carry that with me today. Triage is like a very important word that I use and our whole team uses. Pull everybody in to help you. Don't think that you have to do it by yourself, especially on small teams working in the digital space. And especially if you're working with a startup, sometimes it can feel like you're pretty siloed. Just know that if you open your mouth, be a little bit more assertive, and pull in the right players, you'll have your champions and you'll move on.
So I used to work at the Wall Street Journal, which is like a lot of white men. I'm a particularly short Latina lady, so it was odd to see me in meetings, but I was generally the most tech-heavy person in most of my meetings. I have to say that I never thought about that. I'd walk into a room And it generally was somebody else that would point it out later, kind of as a joke. But when I walk into a room, I don't think I'm a Latina lady. I think I'm the VP of Ad Ops, or I'm the VP of Rev Ops, or I'm this, operations lead. That's my job, and that's how I contribute. So that's kind of thing one. I've seen minorities get caught up on that, and I'm telling you, don't. You walk in, you know what you're bringing to the table. That's your position, right? No, trust me, nobody else in the room is thinking, hey, I'm a white guy, I'm in here. Nobody else is thinking that. So, be that position. So that's thing one. And I have to say, at the Wall Street Journal, I never felt any weirdness about anybody, except people confusing me with, like, the only Latino person in the room. It's like, hey, Judy. I'm like, nope, not Judy. Never will be. Still Sandra. So, that was funny. But I did have a weird encounter at one point where I was told to hush in a meeting. There was a lot of men. It wasn't at the Journal. And I was told to, hush, and I was like, whoa. So I got up, I left. The meeting happened to have the CEO in it. And I never came back to the meeting. And later, I saw him in his office, and I walked in. And he's like, hey, you never came back to that meeting. I said, yeah. I said, so next time you call me into a meeting, I expect to actually be a contributor. That's why you bring me into the meeting. I don't ever expect to be hushed by anyone. Now, he didn't hush me, somebody else hushed me. But I was very honest with him, and I think he always appreciated that. And when I left that company, he was very sad to see me go. When I started at Univision, I decided, even though there's tons of Latinos there, I'm not diverse in any real way, but I still am in the tech group, and so I am still diverse, that I would put together a deck. Now, I'm a seasoned professional, but I do think that when you do start a job, you should think about ways to make things better after a while. And creating a deck, as people say in our world, is an easy way to kind of, share those thoughts. So I immediately created this deck. And people were like, oh, why is, I would call meetings and I would ask for people to come in. And I remember once flying to Miami, going to the chief product officer, who's now the chief digital officer, and saying, hey, I need 15 minutes of your time. I have this deck I want to walk you through. And he was like, he didn't really want to meet with me. But I got in there anyway. He's like, I'll give you 15 minutes. Well, guess what? I sat in there for an hour going through my deck. But what was great about that is that everybody knew, the chief revenue officer, the head of sales, my boss who's the CTO, they know what it was that I was about and what I was bringing to the table. And there's no question now, after about a year, of what it is what my job function is, how far my reach is, and what I'm actually bringing to that table every day.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, each of you. So going back to this deck situation, that's a skill, right? And I think one thing that is very interesting about the technology space is that skills are always ever evolving. There's not one thing that you feel that's going to be stagnant forever. And so in an industry that requires you to learn new languages or learn new products and understand new features and understand what is actually resonating with users as time passes and as months passes, and sometimes, like, even within 48 hours, things change. Like, I'll actually never forget when Instagram took Snapchat's entire, story model. That, for me, was just like, where did this come from? When you think about how you stay competitive, in meeting the demands of your employers, are there any trainings and courses or resources or programs that you would advise young people to look into to make sure that they're keeping abreast to the newest and up-to-date skills?
So in the digital space, so if you want to, if you're thinking one day you're going to work at Facebook or Amazon or the New York Times, the Washington Post.com, in the digital universe, there's a few organizations that stand out. The IAB is one of them. They're a very good resource for information. You can go to their website. You can look up articles. You can actually email them. A lot of times they'll answer you. It's a very small organization, but it's actually quite resourceful. There's a lot of articles there. I found it difficult in my particular field because there isn't like an ad operations field. Like that doesn't, that's a weird thing. But many years ago, someone started an organization called Ad Monsters, which was fantastic. So that's a conference, and a bunch of us, nerds kind of sort of get together, and we have a great time, and we talk about advertising, digital advertising, and the technology behind it. So conferences could be a really good way. And I know a lot of times if you're new in the company, your boss will be like, you'll ask, like, can I go to a conference? And they'll be like, no. But see if you could, sometimes you can volunteer at a conference, and then you get in that way. You kind of sneak your way in that way. But I've also found, funny enough, I've also found Googling something. If you don't hear, if you hear something weird, like programmatic advertising, oh, what does that mean? Let me Google it. You'll find that, tech folks like to write a lot. So there's a lot of blogs out there. There's a lot of information that you can just find, on the web yourself. So there's that.
I think specifically for product management, one thing is definitely sit down with your engineers or technologists in general. Never be afraid to ask questions and really understand where they think product innovation can come from, because they have lots of ideas. That's once you're in the industry, I think that's a definitely great place to start. There's an author, Robert Kagan, who writes books about product management. I highly recommend any of his books. Reading them end to end, they're fantastic. Stratchery, I can never say the name right. It's a blog about product management. Highly recommend that. There's a podcast called This is Product Management, which is really great. Highly recommend that as well. And then Harvard Business Review has lots of great content as well. But I think what I'm getting at with those examples is just reading a lot is really important. I work in the voice industry, or in the voice space specifically. It's highly changing. Every single day it feels like there's a new product coming out. So it's really important to keep up to speed on all of the different products. And so reading is a critical way for me to do that. Also just talking to people, as I mentioned before, talking to your engineers, talking to other folks, what they're coming across in the industry is really critical as well. Just trying to keep up to speed in a highly evolving industry is just really important.
I didn't say this before in the introduction, but for me, I came from entertainment, public relations, and music, and somehow ended up in media working with Time Inc. And it was a blessing working for a huge corporation like Time Inc., especially at that time, because big corporations, especially even some smaller startups, will offer you educational reimbursement. And if you're already working or even have an internship, I would inquire with your employer about those opportunities for continuing your education. Since you're still in school, I think what would be beneficial is reaching out to those companies that you are curious about and that you have an interest in. A lot of them have programs to outreach college students who are in undergrad and postgrad. And those programs are extremely great opportunities for you to not only network, but to learn from individuals working at the companies that you want to work at. I know for a fact that when I was working at all of these companies that I've worked at, Time Inc. to JW Player and now at Vimeo, we've all had programs where we brought in students, whether it be sort of a mentor-mentee program, internship program, what have you. I think something else that's useful is looking up meetups. They have women in tech meetups that are fantastic, and they're hosted by companies like JW Player, Vimeo, or Google, all of these companies have some sort of meetup where they welcome in students, and students who are, or recent grads. I think something else too is just going and taking your own energy and your own, again, curiosity is something that's going to remain a theme for me. Is like Sandra mentioned, go and Google. If you're not Googling, look at what classes are available online for free or at a small cost. Like we use Treehouse at JW Player, and through that, and a tutor, I learned very basic front-end web development, which helped me now in my current role, and it helps me to speak to clients a lot better and understanding what issues they have, and it helps me to speak a little bit more intelligently with our product engineers. And then going back to engineers, make them your friends. They're very nice people. They're actually a lot more fun than the salespeople that I work with. They are willing to help. Right now, I have an interest in data analytics. I'm taking a class at General Assembly to get better at that. I'm working with our director of data analytics at my company. I'm sitting with an analyst. I'm sitting with analysts all the time to learn more, to keep myself competitive. So I encourage you all to do the same thing. Whatever you're interested in, it's out there for you to touch and to learn.
I'd add two more things. You mentioned General Assembly. I think that's a great place to take classes and learn about the technology industry. I know so many people who took a General Assembly class and were able to leverage that to get a job in technology. So check out that website. They're fantastic. And the other thing is, if there's a product that you love or you're passionate about, use it, understand it as best as you can, understand where you think its flaws are, and understand where you think opportunity is. I like to play with products and just think about that. Like, where else can I take this? What else can we do with this? I think that's like a great way to think about like the field of technology in many ways. And when you have interviews, that's a great thing to bring to the table. Like, I know this product really well, but wouldn't it be great if we could also do this or that? And I think that really impresses people in interviews and kind of helps you focus too, and where you want to focus your energies when looking for jobs.
Yes, and one final resource for me is YouTube University. It is not only a place where you can learn makeup tutorials or play games, you can also learn some cool skills on there. There's some amazing creators. So now that you've all reached pivotal points in your academic and professional careers, what's next? And what is your current focus, and why do you want to focus in this area?
Wow. Well, I don't know if I've reached my pinnacle yet, so I'm not I'm not there yet. And that's what's cool. I think that's what keeps me going, is that I get in my mind, that's what I'm thinking all the time. Like, I want to learn something else. Oh, I'm not really, okay, so I'm doing this, I'm VP of whatever, but I can go be director of this because I really want to learn about video. I want to really learn about OTT, or I want to really learn, So I'm happy to kind of navigate through my career path in a way that continues to give me the leg up on the next job, but also, I'm not afraid to go, I was an SVP, now I'm going to be a VP. I was a general manager, now I'll be an SVP. I've done, you can look me up on LinkedIn, you'll see me all over the place. But it keeps me super competitive, and it also keeps me happy. And, to be quite honest, it keeps my salary high, too, because I know a lot of stuff, and people are like, oh, let's pay her a lot of money. So that's fantastic. I think that the next thing for me is I know that the programmatic space is big in our industry. I've been working in programmatic for quite a while, except that I haven't really dove into that side of the business. I've been on the publisher side of the business. I've been on the content side of the business. And you'll get to kind of know that type of stuff when you start to decide where you want to go. The publisher side of the business has all its own considerations, and its own, we think about creating product so people can consume them, right? We think about the consumer, we think about readers, we think about engagement, those types of things. When you're on the advertising or ad tech side of the business, your considerations are different. And I want to explore that part. I want to explore that side. I've always been super proud of being contributing to keeping the lights on, so to speak, for contributors, for writers. I find that, I can't write. That is not my skill. But my skill is that I can hopefully, keep the engine running so that writers can write and that people can enjoy what it is that they're writing about, professional writers. But I've decided that now I want to look at the other side of that coin. And so that's something that's next for me.
Awesome.
Well, there's two things I'll mention here. One, I have a 6-month-old baby girl, and so one of my big areas focus for right now is how to function without much sleep. So I think I'm adapting and growing there. But more seriously, I think I've proven myself as someone who's very good at getting stuff done and delivering products. Where I see myself going is I want to grow strategically, so I become, I would love to be like the thought leader in my line of product. I've kind of dilly-dallied in consulting and moved around, and now I want to hunker down, continue to grow in product management, and really become a thought leader there. I see my team underneath me has grown, and I love managing them, and I love helping people grow, and so I want to continue investing there as well. I love helping people discover their interest in product management. I come from, as I mentioned before, I come from a liberal arts background, and I always was scared of technology, and over the years, I've just learned over and over again that it's the path that had my calling. And so I really am passionate about helping other people understand that even if you don't come from an engineering computer science background, there are fantastic careers in technology and that you can do it and you can grow in that space. So I definitely want to continue to invest in helping people realize that that's a great path to go down and a great career for many people.
I think I mentioned with the last question that I came from entertainment PR, started in Chicago, which is where I'm from, and just because I just wanted to live in New York, I moved here, didn't have a job, but that was back in the era where hustling was how you made it in New York City. And I worked my butt off and worked with some incredible, celebrities and talents for a long time. But I just started to feel like, hey, these perks are great, but number one, I'm not making a lot of money. And my thirst for wanting to learn, it wasn't really fully being fed. I was seeing a lot of cool things and doing cool things, but it just really wasn't helping with my overall growth. And again, when I got to Time Inc., it was that curiosity for digital marketing. I worked with sales. I was supporting a sales team with the advertising arm of Time Inc. So talking about publishing and then moving into digital advertising was kind of the path that I went on. And I knew that the technology piece of it was something that I had no clue what was going on there, but I knew that I lit up anytime I saw it. I knew that I enjoyed working with clients and helping to build their digital ad campaigns and getting them set up. And I saw the direction that the world was moving and how even at the very beginning when video ads were being introduced, I was like, what is that? That's sexy. And a mentor of mine actually told me, hey, why don't you move into a completely different direction and get your hands dirty maybe with trafficking or something where on the back end you can work with engineers and learn a little bit more about that side of it if that's what's really interesting you. And through that, I did go back to school, thanks Time Inc. I went to NYU's continuing school of professional studies and got a certification in digital media marketing, which was the best thing I've ever done. And that's how I left Time Inc. and started working with a startup. Again, very uncomfortable, very nerve-wracking. There weren't that many people working with the company, but that was a great way for me to learn. And through that, it opened my eyes a little bit more to what was going on out there in video, as well as marketing, as well as advertising, and that continues to drive me. And now that I'm at Vimeo and taking this course in data analytics at General Assembly, again, I feel like that is pushing me in another direction. So for me, I want to continue on this path and getting stronger at learning more about data and how it can be valuable not only for the company, but for those clients and how to help them build their businesses. And eventually, I want to be able to work remotely. Project management, I'm sure with product management too, but probably more so with project management. I don't necessarily have to be in the office, and I love that. I could be at Starbucks, I could be at a WeWork, which I love WeWork, or I can be in the office with my team. So I like that flexibility, and me just following whatever curiosity I had got me here, and I think it will continue to take me to the next place. So again, I don't feel like I'm at a pivotal point. I feel like I'm just getting started, to be honest with you.
Awesome. So ODI team, I do have one last question, but did you want to open up the floor to questions from the audience? Awesome. Well, thank you.
Hi, how are you? My name is Kiana. First off, I just want to say thank you for the advice and talking about all of your experiences, because that's truly inspiring. So my question kind of goes out to pretty much everyone in this room about how young people are very discouraged by experience limits. So a lot of descriptions will say, at least 5 to 10 years experience, and this is coming out of, undergrad. And in that period where I went from undergrad to now pursuing my master's, I'm realizing, I don't want to stick to, I went to a CJ school, and now I'm in communications, and I want to do that. So kind of, how do you find yourself exploring different options, always learning, and kind of like marketing that on a resume or to someone that you want to be employed by?
I can start. It is very hard to get your foot in the door. Bottom line, I think for me, I'll talk about how I got my foot in the door. I got to know a senior exec at Accenture where I started. I was babysitting for his kids, and I went home from college to visit them, and he basically told me that I told him I was going to go work on the presidential campaign, and he told me that he thought I should, look at a job at Accenture, and I hadn't even considered it. And he connected me to some folks, and we started talking, and I realized it was something of interest to me. So I share that example just because I think networking is the most important thing to get your foot in the door. Look for people, reach out to people, but I think it's really important when you talk to people to not just say, I'm interested in marketing, because I had a call with someone recently, and she said to me, I'm interested in marketing. And all I could say to her was, okay, let me connect you to someone in marketing. But if she had said to me, tell me, this is what I'm interested in. Tell me what you think from your experience would be a good fit for me, I would have been able to help her. I would have told her, I would look into product marketing. And here I can help you in these 3 ways. So I would, when you're talking to people, make sure that you don't come to them with a very specific job. Keep your interest sort of high level, and ask them for advice, because I think that people can help guide you, and they might find opportunities for you that you might have not even thought of before. And I think that my consulting experience, I didn't even know what consulting was, but sitting down with him and talking about it, he told me about it, and he helped me understand how my interests lined up well in that space. So I think that's really critical. Always be willing to reach out to people. People love helping others, but just come at it from a place of how can we work together to find the right thing for me?
I think the next thing that people love doing next to hopefully helping people love talking about themselves. So yes. I think that LinkedIn will be your best friend. If you see that job application or that job description, because I've seen it too, where you read everything on that description and you're like, this is me, this is either my experience or these are things that I'm interested in, and these are things that I know that I can accomplish. And then you get to the very bottom and it's like 5 to 7 years experience and these different applications and software experience, different things like that. Apply anyway. But what you should also do before you even apply, reach out to, if you can't get to the hiring manager, someone who's already in that position at that company. Trust me, one of them will reach back out to you and say, sure, I'd love to chat with you on the phone for 15 minutes. They may even want to meet you at Starbucks for coffee or someplace for coffee just to talk to you about the role. And that is a part of that networking that she's speaking about. That really helps. Because nowadays, it's not just about sending in your resume and hoping that you'll get a call back. You really have to be a little bit more aggressive with reaching out to people and just saying, hey, look at me, can I get to know you? And trust me, it works. Just keep trying.
So I don't think we have time for any more questions. However, I want to thank each of you for participating today. This was a very insightful panel. I appreciate your transparency, and I'm hoping that each of you today left with something incredible. Before you all leave, can we stand in here and take a photo? Sure. Thanks.
Thank you, ladies. That was awesome.